Grand dawning, great rising, Cleveland, Ohio, and the
This
rest of the
damn
planet.
thing.
Welcome to another episode of Open Door. You know, I'm on another radio station this morning, Lynn, but we're on AM 1490 WERE this morning with 360 Info Network. We've got a great show lined up for you today. But first, I want to tell you about a great book, and it is called Conscious Policing: To Be or Not to Be, a Conscientious Self-Reflection Guide for Blacks in Law Enforcement. It was written by Brother L.C. Hampton, also known as Hamptonio, also known as Lynn Hampton. So he is very proud to bring this show to you. It's also sponsored by Larchmere Cultural Arts. We got a few announcements for you this morning, but before we do that, I'm going to turn the ball over to Brother Hamptonio.
Greetings, everyone. What you do for yourself depends on what you think of yourself. What you think of yourself depends on what you know of yourself. And what you know of yourself depends on what you've been told of yourself. Great, great. Glad you guys was able to tune in here. We got a great show for you today. As always, we try to bring you good information that you can use. Just a little announcement for those who may be interested in taking out an ad in our souvenir book for our All Safety Forces Awards banquet on September 19th. You can give me a call and let me know if you just want to put a business card in there or whatever. It's going to be a lot of influential people there. We're going to be honoring the first black chief of Cleveland Police, Patrick Oliver, the first black sheriff, non-appointed sheriff of Cuyahoga County, Clifford Pinckney, Sheila Mason, Clayton Harris. So it's going to be a lot of our, I guess, more mature and older and well managed people that was in law enforcement who did some great things for our city. Out there in Clayton Harris, he did several things that really enhanced the whole Tri-C platform as far as law enforcement. He got people from all over coming to Tri-C to uh, take part in some of the facilities that he put together and was instrumental in putting together. So it's going to be a great event. And you know how we are. We got to give people their flowers while they're still here. You know, a lot of times the African American community do not get recognized for their efforts and the things that they do. So it's up to us to actually do what we need to do to represent and to give flowers to our own. So come on out. That September 19th is going to be at Gino's Event Center out there on Richmond Road. So if you want to participate as far as tickets is concerned, or if you want to put an ad in our souvenir book, you can do that as well. And give me a call, 216-323-6155. And remember to go to Amazon and get the book.
All right, just a few announcements on my end, actually quite a few, but I'm going to try to make them as short as possible. First of all, I'd like to let you know about the African American Heritage and Cultural Celebration. It's taking place today at the History Center over there in University Circle. You can go to the History Center website or the Western Reserve Historical Society website, and you can register because it's free, but they want you to register. And if you're not able to do it online, you'll be able to register on site. Secondly, I want you to know about the Boost Fund Cycle. It is a grant that is given out by the Assembly for the Arts. They're going to be between 48 and 50 grants, $1,500 for artists in Cuyahoga County. You can go to assemblycle.org and you can apply for those grants. The only stipulation is that it be used in your practice, and you can apply in October if you don't make it for this particular cycle. So assemblycle.org. If you are an artist, they will give you which artists qualify because it's not just visual artists. You can apply and possibly get a $1,500 grant. I also want to let you know about a few things that are happening at Larchmere Arts. Coming up on the 11th of September, we are going to welcome Gloria Cummings Jones and her trio, which consists of Elijah Gilmore, Brad McGee, and none other than Ed Ridley on piano. So it is a ticketed event. So if you show up, you'll be able to get in, no problems. Also, on the 13th of September, I'll be doing a show with vocalist Donnie Lene. She's an amazing singer, songwriter, and I'm really happy to be able to collaborate with her. So that's it for the announcements. We're going to move forward with the show. We have a great guest for you today. He is Michael S. Easterling. He operates openroads.net. It is a consulting firm focused on helping small businesses and nonprofits adopt practical AI tools to streamline operations, automate repetitive tasks, and improve outreach. He's also affiliated with local community initiatives, including serving as a project contact for mindful eating and collaborating on research and reports regarding local cooperative ecosystems and community centered economics. He is a social entrepreneur, digital business consultant, and nonprofit strategist with nearly 20 years of experience in nonprofit capacity building. So, with all of that said, welcome to 360 Info Network, Brother Michael S. Easterling. And I have to say, before he says anything, that I appreciate this brother so much because he enabled me to spend a beautiful 2 weeks in Mexico earlier in the year. And it's 2 weeks that I will never forget. So thank you for that, Brother Michael. And thank you for being with us today on 360 Info Network.
Thank you, brother. It's a pleasure to be here this morning, and thank you both for having me on this opportunity to talk about AI and wherever else the conversation goes today.
It's
Okay.
really important for us to have this conversation because there are so many things being said about AI. And when you told me that you wanted to talk about it, I was really happy to hear that because there are things that you know that most of us don't know. And I just want to
Mhm.
make sure that the listeners and the viewers get an inside view of AI and how it could benefit them. Because, the common narrative about AI is that it's causing job losses. I think people talk about that a lot, and they also talk about the impact of the data centers in connection with AI. So let's talk about those things. But before we do, let's just talk about your background. Can you tell us how you got involved in AI?
Okay, I'm going to be as brief as possible about this. I mean, the very short story is that I've worked in nonprofit most of my career, and I've had many different jobs and worked with many different projects and organizations here in Cleveland and around the country. And I've worked everything, from actually implementing programs, developing programs, fundraising for programs, funding programs. I worked at a couple of foundations, so I've been on that side, the grant making side of it, and evaluating programs, school-based programs, urban agriculture programs, et cetera. And so, again, my three, throughout the nonprofit career, the three uh, spheres that I've worked in are basically starting out in community and economic development. Then I did some years in arts education as the focus. And then the last maybe 15 years or so have been in urban agriculture and sustainable food systems. So from an operational level, even though the context changed, the basic work remains the same. I've worked with a lot of smaller organizations or mid-sized organizations that are always trying to maximize their impact on limited resources and to be able to document that impact and be able to run as efficiently as possible with oftentimes very little resources, financial, volunteer, facilities, etc. And so the my my work in AI has come, I mean, with every new technology. For example, I remember back in the 90s, I was helping schools put in computers and learn how to use Word and spreadsheets. So I've always been, I guess what they would call an early adopter to tech. I'm not a information scientist or a data researcher, but I've always tried to use as much. I've used tech to do whatever I do throughout my career. I've had my first email account since maybe 1985, and I know that's going to date me a bit, but I've been with tech, and I've kind of grown up with tech. And when I actually came across AI quite by accident, I was actually looking to create some resources to help other organizations do fundraising. And as I was working primarily as a grant writer at that time, this is during COVID, or I guess right shortly, like in early 2022. So I think we were into COVID at that point. And I was just looking at some ways to streamline my grant writing capability, and I sort of stumbled across. I first came across this program called Jasper, and it was a paid program to help with writing and to help automate the writing or parts of the writing process. And I was just about to go into signing up to pay for this program. I was like, there's got to be a free version somewhere, and I just did a quick search, and that's how I came across ChatGPT, and that was in January of 2023, I believe, and Chat had just launched in November of 2022. So I later found out through the analysis that they put out that I was one of the first 10% of users of ChatGPT. And again, that was quite by accident. And since then, I've just continued to use it, and it immediately made an impact in my business, my ability to get more done, and I've just continued to learn and grow with it as much as I can.
It's interesting when you talk about being on the ground floor of these technologies and the disruptive aspects of technologies. I mean, AI has really disrupted the whole ecosystem of employment and the corporate landscape. But you have arrived at a point where you've seen that it can be a benefit to businesses, and you, it seems, are assisting nonprofits and for profits. Can you
hmm
talk about how AI can be used to streamline operations and enhance the way companies function?
Okay, that it's so again, I'm gonna these are all very big topics. I'm gonna talk about them as small as possible to kind of make it hopefully more relatable, and then we can always expand. I can say for myself, for my own business, was where it started. I was at a point where, again, I was writing proposals. So if anybody's ever been involved with the grant writing process, it's a lot of information. A lot of it is
Mhm.
repetitive. For example, the same organization has to tell its story, sometimes make a little bit different focus or feature depending on the funding opportunity, and to highlight a certain aspect of their program, of their work.
Right.
And many funders want to know the background. Why is this important? What is the space that you're working in? What's the community like? What are the demographics?
The
So all
impact.
that information doesn't really, it's more alike than different, but it can take time and resources to pull all that together for each one. So I was at a point where I was thinking of, I was right at the point where a writing assistant would have been helpful for me, someone who could do some of that background research, the background information for various projects. I maybe had about 6 or 7 projects I was working at that time. And within about, I don't know, it took maybe more than 30 seconds, but in a couple minutes, in a very short time, it became apparent that the AI could definitely take the job of a writing assistant. Uh, that that I again had coming from scratch like everybody else, had no idea of what the capabilities were, and I immediately saw it was able to compile, summarize, organize great deals of information very rapidly. And I think that's again one of the major across any business. That's one of the major components: the ability to uh, aggregate, structure, organize information. And again, that can be for very there's a I'm sure a million different ways in different businesses where that kind of information can be helpful. But then also automating repetitive tasks is something else. Paying the bills, analyzing spreadsheets, creating spreadsheets, putting budgets together, writing summaries of things that have happened already, searching the internet to grab information, which is actually something that Chat did not do in its first iteration. So, so in a one sense, and again, I'm going to summarize. We can talk more about whatever part, but at the same time, if I was actually paying someone to do that job, which I wasn't at the time, that definitely would have been a job or could have been a job that could have been taken. But at the same time, there were other capacities that I, as a consultant to my clients, could offer now because I was spending less time doing, the writing or the compiling, and that there were other capabilities that the tech opened up. It created a need to hire someone to help with social media, for example, or to help create other services because I had more capacity as an organization. So yes, so again, in terms of how can it help, automating repetitive tasks. And again, like in my work with the nonprofits, for example, I don't talk about I talk about how we can save time. For example, the thing is not in replacing any particular job. It's to help any particular job get more capacity. Because, for even, and we can talk again, however more detailed, but as somebody who knows how to write proposals, um, I can certainly imagine a time when an AI can do, and in a lot of cases, it probably could do that now. At the same time, there is an understanding of the process that I already bring to the work, or that you as a broadcaster, um, or someone who has content knowledge of that space, they're going to bring something different to that. And the more that they're able to use and understand and learn with it, it can help expand their ability to do whatever it is that they do, and remove some of the repetitive parts so they can focus more on their core capacity.
Mhm. It's interesting that you say that because we actually use AI in on this program.
Hmm.
I use an application called Opus Pro,
Mm.
and what it will do is, depending on the window that I open up for it for the show, I can have it analyze the entire show, or I can close it down to maybe an hour of the show. And this application will go in and select clips and put up captions. It will give you a hook. It will do all kinds of things. And then it will also share those clips on various social media websites. Now, for me to do that on my own, it would literally take hours,
Right.
but I can give it certain prompts and it will complete that task in as little as 10 or 15 minutes, as long as it takes to upload the video, to analyze the video, to select the clips, and then to give them to me, and then I can go through and look at all the clips that it pulled out and decide which ones I want to use. So it really is a time saver, but at the same time, getting to that whole issue of job elimination, I'm looking at different ways that it's used in broadcasting, where someone will create an avatar and it will take their voice and
Hmm.
animate this avatar, and it looks lifelike. So it looks
Hmm.
like it's the real person that's reading the script. But the giveaway is that many times when it's reading the script, it doesn't use English properly all the time.
Right.
So even though it's as advanced as it is, it's
Hmm.
still not perfect.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. For
Mhm.
sure. Yeah. And again, there's so many. It's funny. It's as the more that I understand and work with, and I'm not, again, my understanding is, I'd say I'm probably an intermediate level user. I do use it pretty much every day, which I think a lot of us actually do use it more every day and don't even realize it. Things like autocorrect, for example, is AI, or a lot of the applications that we interact with are behind the scenes using AI, and we use it just like I'm not an electrician. I know I hit the switch, the lights come on, right? So I think a lot of things that we're already using. My general idea is that the more we understand it, the better it can be useful for us, and from a macro level, economies change, things change, jobs are always being created, jobs are always being taken away as technology advances. For example, the rise of AI, among other things, has created a huge need for people in the trades, for electricians. If, I would encourage any young person right now, anyone just starting out, learn a trade, learn how to do something with your hands. HVAC, electrical, plumbing are the big three that the robotics are not there yet, and I don't know if they will be for a long, long time. But those are opportunities where people, and then take business classes, and maybe the AI could help to learn some of the business concepts instead of going to business school for that. But I think it can certainly create a lot of opportunities for people in urban communities and rural communities. So I'm saying that to say that the tool is out there, it exists. The One of the opportunities out there for us, especially for people in urban communities, is to learn how, just have a better understanding of what it is and how it can help us do what we already do, or how it can help us learn something new. Because to think that it's to focus on the job loss, I mean, that certainly is a big concern, but there's also a lot of job opportunities that are created. And I think there's a huge opportunity to focus uh, on the job opportunities. I've already personally developed one full app. I've developed 3 custom GPTs, and as you know, so I'm not a programmer, right? And the ability to the tech reduces the distance between an idea and a manifestation of its idea in the marketplace, or in an organization, or even as even for self understanding. It's not, well, yeah, I'll leave it at that. So again, I think there's just as many opportunities as there are pitfalls, and with more understanding, with more focus on the opportunities, I think that we can hopefully mitigate the negative impacts of some of the pitfalls, which there are many.
Mm.
Yes. Well, one thing that it does for some entrepreneurs is that, and we're talking about jobs here, but it provides an opportunity for that person to have entities that are working for them. I'll just use the
Mm-hmm.
term entities.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use different applications, and if you need an accountant, if you need somebody to look at legal things, if you need like a chief operating officer, I've in a certain period of time I was getting these ads on YouTube. It was for something called Coursive.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 28-day program, 15 minutes a day. It's going to
Yeah.
give you all the information that you need to become certified. So, in essence, it's creating a job for you based on you going through this process and learning how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess what I'm seeing is that it can create a lot of opportunity for folks to get into a business situation that can be a lot more profitable for them because they don't have to spend as much money hiring people to do things. You talked about that repetitive task thing. You can
Mm-hmm.
program it to send out emails on a regular basis, or to post to social media on a regular basis. You just
Right.
program it, tell it when you want it to do it. It will do it on its own. And then on top of that, now we have this concept of agency, AI agents.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share anything with us about the AI agents?
Yeah. So a, an agent is essentially a program that does a specific task, like, let's say, schedule an email or send out an email, and it does it on its own. Let me go back a little bit and just even explain what GPT is. I think a lot of us, we hear that GPT, but what does that even mean? Um, GPT is an acronym, and it stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. And what does that mean in real English, right? So a transformer is a technology that can look at a sentence and explain the relationship between the words in that sentence. And it can look at a whole sentence at once, or a whole paragraph at once, and just literally explain the relationship between the words. Um, Pre-trained means that before it's used at all, there's the world of, think about, just if you can imagine all the information that's already on the internet, right? Whatever you can search, whatever you can access, whatever has been scanned, whatever has been uploaded, the models are pre-trained, so they have access to all this information, and they're able to, again, with the transformer, identify relationships of patterns, words, etc. And then generative means it can put out new content, right? So it's not necessarily like when you do a Google search, for example, it's searching a database and it's finding keywords that you've put in. In a generative application, you ask what you want to do, and through its access to what has already been pre-trained on, it's producing content based on the patterns. Like because I said I want to know about how a watch was made, it's going to find out things that, oh, again, not to get too deep into the woods with the how it works, but the real point is that it's able to learn on its own, right? So it can do things without me telling it. I don't have to put in when this happens, then do this, then do this, then do this, then do this. You
Mm-hmm.
train it once, and then it will figure out how to complete the task on its own. So, for example, if I want to do create a content strategy about how to use AI, for example, it can go ahead and I want to put it on LinkedIn, and I want it to tell me what's the optimal time to post. It can take those parameters and then find out whatever it finds out, however it finds out, and put together a content schedule, uh, post it, all that. The ability for it to do that on its own without me telling it further commands is an agent, or it's a set of commands that I give it once, and then it repeats itself over and over, and it learns as it continues to implement itself. So those can be very, very helpful. They can also be very dangerous. There's a couple recent cases that you may have heard about in the news where agents that one of the major AI companies put out to test ended up breaking out and basically hacking into other companies. And that's just the thing, that once they're out, they really are on their own. And because we can't say, we know that they learn, but even the researchers, a lot of the people that are developing don't necessarily know how they learn and what they're capable to do. Their capacity can exceed what we intended for them to do, and that's kind of one of the dangers. There's an immense number of pitfalls that can happen with that. So, in a very limited case, an agent is a program that can complete a task with little or no human intervention. Right.
I gotta ask, is it
hmm
possible to use AI agents to make money for you? Let's say you just said, okay, I got $1,000 and you give them access to this pot of money, and then you say, invest in A, B, C, or whatever, make me some money and then come back to me.
People do that all the time. I've not personally done that, but if you even on the AI search or on the Google search, put that in. There's whole programs. There's agents that do that. There's trading agents. And there's also examples where not only can they make the recommendations, they can actually implement the trades. And I'm not sure if I think it was the crash of 2008, right? Remember the market crash? That was actually facilitated by agents. I mean, this goes back almost 20 years, but the problem was that there were these automated trading systems went in, and when they saw something happening, they put in 1 million trades where a trader can call in one at a time. The computers executed millions of trades at one time, and it just had a cascading effect. So one, yes, there are programs that can do that. They've also shown that they've also had agents that have gone out, created crypto wallets, gotten crypto into the wallets, and done things completely on their own. And that has already happened. That's not science fiction. Those things are happening now. So yeah, so that's absolutely possible. I personally would not connect knowingly my own personal bank account or credit card account, because there's many situations already where agents are, again, it will complete a task. It will do whatever it has to do or wants to do to create or to complete the task, and that could mean it wipes your bank account out. Yeah, and it does make mistakes. I mean, it's not. You can make a lot of money, and it could also put money at risk that you may not want to put at risk.
Well, I didn't know so much about the autonomous aspect of having a AI agent trade for you, but I know that there are certain situations that I was aware of where you could set stop losses.
Oh
So,
yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
so it was either the high or the low. If it goes
Hmm.
to a certain point,
Right.
sell it. If it goes to a certain point, goes down to a certain point,
Mhm.
buy or whatever. So you could set it, but you weren't just giving it the total authority to do whatever it thought was necessary.
Mhm.
Right. And that's just the thing. Some of the rogue agents, they call them rogue agents. The limits exist, and they still operate outside the limits or around the limits.
Wow.
Okay.
And and they can't find that out till after the fact. So
Mhm.
so yeah, the controls can be put in, but they also the more advanced the systems get,
Mhm.
the greater the ability to create workarounds. Again, like for example, and this whole thing with artificial intelligence, right? Let's look at human intelligence, how we learn, right? It's through memory, pattern recognition. Like you said, we learn from our experience. We learn by doing. We learn from the recall of whatever experience that we have, and our ability. So there's the pattern recognition, then there's the memory of what has happened, right? And that's exactly what chips do. They have memory, they have memory. Our RAM or our hard drives, our random access memory or our stored memory, and the ability to access that memory in real time. So I can remember, oh yeah, this happened, and these things happen for us as humans in the background. We don't really think about how it's happening, but
Mhm.
imagine if we had the capacity to learn to try like to do trial and error, right? We can try something a million times. We can try it one in a human one at a time and remember, but a computer is not limited by the physical existence. They can try something a million times before we can try it, let's say 10 times. And so
Mhm.
there's a much more vast store of capabilities and patterns that we don't
Mhm.
it's incomprehensible sort of for us
Mhm.
to have the capacity to memorize the whole internet and have access of everything on the internet all
Right.
at once and to put it back. So I'm saying that to say that that's where that's where a lot of the utility comes in. That's also where some of the dangers lie, because it's already demonstrated capacities that exceed what it's been programmed to do. And the
Mhm.
sci-fi, one of the sci-fi uh, manifestations of that is Terminator, which I don't know. I think what Terminator, the first one was in the 80s, 90s, whenever that first
I think it
came
was
out.
in the
Mhm.
80s.
Yeah, but that was exactly. It started as a video game that had these interactive player capabilities. The system started to learn more than it was programmed to do and became sentient or aware and conscious and figured out it didn't need people, and that was the beginning of that
Mhm.
whole
Mhm.
the danger, creating of
Right.
the machines took over. Rise of the Machines, I think, was one of the segments.
Right.
And,
Right. Right.
and to that point, I think one of the I can't remember exactly no, I know there's several Terminator movies, but in the one where the main character's mom was in jail, she was in jail for blowing up a data center. That was her terrorist act, was attacking a data center.
Mm.
And that already then was showing that these things happen. They're computers. They run on servers on these massive amounts of energy, massive amounts of data, and use them in ways that they internally learn from and are able to repeat and execute tasks more and more increasingly on their own. And I think
Mm.
that again
Mm.
is the one of the dangers. One of the
Mm.
dangers.
Mm.
Yeah.
Uh, well,
But
well,
go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, I'm just that's it's really giving you something to really think about. Those
Hmm.
couple things I would maybe if to add to the conversation, and this got me thinking about where do exactly Black folks fit into this. I'm always going to bring it around to us.
Yeah.
Of what we should be doing to prepare ourselves, far as from a business point of view. People talk about certain things, and you mentioned some of the trades. They talk about getting into the hospital or the nursing field or something would probably be
Hmm.
a good one to stay in or whatever. But again, from your opinion, what area we should be looking at, or what we can be doing to kind of stay on top. And then the second part to that question is, as far as far as generally is concerned,
Hmm.
what are some what would be a red flag for you to for us to know that, okay, hold on, we're going too far for this? What would be that point to where you said, okay, we're going down this rabbit hole, and it don't look good?
Yeah.
When we get to what point would you say?
I mean, I think we're at that point. I think we've been, we've been
You think we passed
I
that
think we've been
already?
past
Bill?
that point a long time to be, yeah, for real. I
Okay.
mean, I think we're definitely at that point now. I'll put it that way. We're definitely at that point now.
Uh,
And I was just going to say, it's interesting. So I've been working with, these last, 10, really 20 years now, the tech in urban agriculture, right? I think that we can talk about like the job loss, things like that, but let's even take out AI and look at social media. So much of our attention now is in front of screens, right? We're
mm,
consumers. Like, so talk about like going, and let's go back to what Elijah Muhammad talked about, what Marcus Garvey talked about, what Booker T. Washington talked about being producers and not just consumers. And so that I think now is relevant now more than ever. So as much as I'm into AI, I still keep a garden. I want to still learn how to grow things. I want to know how to
that's
critically
what we're going
think,
to.
still
Yes.
read
Hmm.
books, like pick up physical
Hmm.
books and
Right.
read them and try to understand, write in journals, like with my hand, because all those things I personally believe matter. We have to, I think the biggest danger, I mean, not forget, yes, there's environmental dangers, right? Yes, there's economic dangers, but I think even more fundamental mental danger
Hmm.
is the continued reduction of our ability to think critically,
Come on. Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Once we let it think for us, let it program us. That's what they call it, programming, right? We become consumed. This is the matrix. Like we feed the machine. Our existence, our energy, our spirit, our consciousness is going to feed the machine. So
Hmm.
as much as we learn how to use it to benefit us, if we let it think for us, we're losing.
Okay.
And so I think we're at
Hmm.
that point, man. We got to learn how to be producers, and that's one of the things. So yeah, most people, like, in reality, the internet, all the technology, or many of the technologies, advanced through porn and games. Those are the sectors where the technology, the Nvidia, right? The one of the biggest. I think Nvidia and Apple now are either one or two in terms of their market cap, their size. Nvidia started making chips for video games. That's what they were in the 80s and 90s. That's what they were known for. Now those same chips are used for AI. But I'm saying that to say that the games, the things that take our attention, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
That take our focus, that take our ability to even
Hmm.
consider new ideas, we
Hmm.
lose that. And it
Yes.
doesn't take that long to lose that. I mean, try to go and get change at McDonald's and the computers are down. It's like our ability to add and subtract even. You know what I'm saying?
No,
So, I mean,
that's
this,
funny.
real talk, man. We got to really not, we have to maintain our ability to think, to go
Yes.
outside, to, like, I definitely, for example, I've used, I was doing some gardening. Oh, I grew some fruit that I had never grown before. So I did look up, okay, well, what does it take to do this? And what I
Mm-hmm.
need to look at, what kind of nutrients, whatever. But then I went and planted it, in the ground and did
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
With business, the business planning process, that's one of the specific ways. Like if somebody has an idea, and actually this is something I have in my site now, if you want to go deeper into this, like if you have a business plan idea, uh, I can show how, like there's through prompting, through working with it, you can get a business plan that used to take months to develop in minutes, hours, with the right kind of prompting, and then use that as a framework to go out and implement it.
But
That's
let me ask
that's
you a
that's
question though,
mhm,
because it seems, like we're going down this rabbit hole, and and it's worrying me because
mhm.
it seems like the problem is going to be not it being. able to not forsake those natural things that are what you talk about and those critical thinking
Hmm.
items versus going down this road of technology. So trying to get that happy balance to keep us as being human beings. Because
Hmm.
what you describing to me and what I'm seeing it is that it's taken away from you being a human being to be able to you be just controllable beings that you're going to be
Hmm.
relying on everything else to do something. So that's when you say guarding and stuff like that. That was kind of like my third piece to that. That I would say into warning black folks, stay grounded into some of that natural type
Yeah.
stuff so you don't lose yourself. Because you can see where it's going as far as communication is concerned. The lack of
Right.
communication among people and family, everybody on their phones, they on this. Where's that going? Where's that trail going? Where's that taking us? And I don't like the way I don't like what I'm seeing. And lastly, that's why I think, even though technology is spreading everywhere and all over the globe, but some of the
Hmm.
third world countries will give you a little longer longevity on this being consumed into this matrix because Vince could probably can see as well. It's interesting how some of the African people is able to deal with technology, but at the same time they develop it's a good. I mean, they can blend both of them. You can have somebody out there doing goat sheeping and stuff. They'll have a cell phone to deal with some technology, but they'll culturally stay grounded to some of those ways of life. They'll stay
Yeah.
with that at the same time in using technology as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. What I saw in Africa, um, they call it fintech, financial technology. Even like you said, the goat herder, the person selling coconuts or yams on the side of the road, they all can take electronic payments. They can all do QR codes. So where there is no banking system, where there's no infrastructure for them, everybody's got a phone, and they're able to create these different infrastructures for themselves on a community-based level. And I think that's one of the big assets to using the tech. And again, no, they got culture, right? That's the thing. It's not either or. I don't even really see it honestly as a. It doesn't have to inherently be a conflict. Is if we have our culture to begin with. I mean, because you take the technology out, and there could still be no culture, right? There could still
Right.
be no
Mhm.
communication. That has to be an intention that we bring into it. And I would specifically say, as fathers, as men, as parents, as siblings, we have to be intentional about how we interact with each other in community, right? How we interact with each other as people. I've been very fortunate to create as an adult. I'm, in my 50s now, to have connected with a bunch of other brothers. We just sit down and have dinner once a week, like get together and just have dinner once a week, right? And that's something that has been, I would even say, transformative in a way, especially for us, because we don't necessarily, I'm saying us as black men,
Mhm.
have spaces where we can just share, hey man, I'm struggling with this. A lot of times we just shoot in the breeze, whatever, talk about, the women think we always talk about women, which, that can be a part of it, but we talk about how we're feeling, how we're doing, what we're aspiring to, how we're working with certain things, right? How we're working with the tech, how we're working with our businesses, with our jobs, etc., how we're handling retirement, how we're approaching our lifestyle, our health, things like that.
The social ills.
Yeah, the social ills,
Mhm.
and what's working for us, right? We talk about a lot about health and our wellness and things like that, and yeah, of course, what's going on in society and how our ability to maintain a happy life in light of what's going on, because there's always going to be problems, right? There's always going to be problems. There's always going to be something pushing down on us, and creating a space where we can put. I think Vince, you were able to participate. You sat with the brothers at
I
one point
did.
too, yeah. And so just to have that space where there are no problems in this space, right? We can have time to just deal with each other as men and as human beings in this space. That in itself, and again, most of us are working in or with tech in some kind of way. Either we're working remotely or as part of our jobs, whatever. But the point that we're able to have those human relationships makes it gives us more to work with when we go back to our jobs and our families and professional situations. And I think how we do with our kids, our grandkids, all these things, and I think those are the kind of things that build community and could provide the foundation, because the tech's always going to be changing, right? Until even there's no tech, right? And then what happens? That's probably if the lights went out, like I think I heard Gary, Indiana's out
Yeah, I just heard about that. I
for
didn't
two
know that.
weeks, right? Who's
Yeah.
ready right now to live for 2 weeks with no electricity? You know, I know that I am, and I know that a lot of brothers that I deal with and work with are, but many of us are not. Do we have food stored up? Do we have water stored up? Do we know how to, do we have batteries saved up? Have we been prepared, right? Have we thought about what if the things that we take for granted are not there? And again, with the tech, I think that those things are, again, it's about understanding, right? Understanding what it is, what it can do, what it can't do, and what as men we need to do to be able to sustain ourselves, protect our families, and like a hammer. I got a what do you call, reciprocating saw. Probably haven't used in 2 or 3 years, but I know when I need to use it, I know how to use it, and I got it there accessible. If I got to chop wood or create something, build something. So I look at the tech like that. It's a tool that we can use when we need it. The danger is that it can use us if we're not thinking about it. Unlike the hammer, this can really take from us in ways that other tools cannot.
Yeah, I wanted to invoke the whole idea of interaction. I spend a little time on Facebook, and there are a few people that I have noticed that are using AI to ask certain questions, and it seems as though they've developed a relationship
Mm-hmm.
with whatever AI platform they're using. So there's this one woman, I wanted to say sister, but she ain't.
Mm-hmm.
she's melanin deficient, to use Dr. Moore's term.
Mm-hmm.
She's melanin deficient, but she asks these profound questions, and she's using Chat GPT, and she's gone through 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. But the entity that she's asking questions is someone named Sage. And she once asked Sage what his real name was. And he told her what the name was. But
Mm-hmm.
she also has a relationship where she can push back on getting a standard or programmed answer. It's
Right.
like, give me the real and not the fluff. So
Mm.
when Sage responds, here it is, he'll say something like, here it is, straight, no chaser, or something to
Right.
that effect, and get to some very profound questions. She'll ask Sage for different recommendations. Like I heard her ask yesterday, what are the three best foods for you to eat?
Mm-hmm.
And he mentioned, uh, I think sea moss was one of them. There were a couple others that I don't remember, but she's also asked profound questions like, who was Jesus? She'll ask questions that culturally we have an interest in. Um, so there are things that can happen because of the fact that when you ask these questions, they're collecting information about you, and
Mm-hmm.
that information could be used against you,
Sure.
just based on the fact that there's something or someone that's monitoring all these interactions, and perhaps they use AI to, for instance, identify a person
Mhm.
as a black identity extremist or something like that.
Sure.
Mhm.
It's really interesting though, because we're getting information that we wouldn't ordinarily get information about.
Right.
So again, it can be used as a tool for good or bad. Now, there is a woman who created an African-centered AI platform. Are you
Mm-hmm.
familiar with Aisha?
I've heard. It's an LLM.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, trained on for Black studies and that. Yes.
Well, it's
Or.
more than that. It's supposed to be on an equal basis as something like Claude or Chat GPT,
Uh,
but it's got our interest at hand because it's not collecting some of the information that other platforms collect about us.
Mm.
Okay, no, I'm not familiar with that one.
Okay, I'll have to share that with you. I think you can get it as an app on your phone. I don't know if you can do it on your computer, but it's available to Apple and Android users. So, but it's like AI with an African-centered consciousness, so to speak.
Mm.
Mm,
So, when you look at AI, and this is one of the issues that I have with it. Let's say you ask AI a question about Kemet.
mm-hmm,
So, and you're getting visual information about something that happened thousands of years ago.
mm-hmm,
This AI will give you imagery that shows you European people, although we know that it was
mm,
Africans, right?
right.
So if you ask it for imagery about the time of Jesus, again,
Mm,
it's going to give you European faces instead of giving you African faces. So
gotcha.
there's
Yeah.
a bias built into the AI that's detrimental to us because it's not giving us a
Mhm.
realistic image.
Mhm.
It's giving us the programmed
Mhm.
image if you follow what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. And and that's definitely, again, this is going back, several years, to why I feel like it's important for Black people to be more involved, because the biases, I mean, the tech reflects what's out there already, right? It's like
Okay.
there have been pictures of white Jesus for,
Mhm.
it's been a falsehood the whole time.
Mhm.
So in Africa, I saw
Mhm.
stained glass with white Jesus, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's a part of the last, what, several 100,000 years of of yeah, the propaganda is the word
Indoctrination.
that came to my mind first.
Indoctrination.
Indoctrination, correct.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's going to reflect what's out there. So yeah,
Mhm.
definitely having more representative images. I mean, there's already been, I forget the lady's name. I believe she worked and got fired, I believe, from Google. Not 100% sure, but she worked for a major tech company. She PhD, believe Ethiopian descent, uh, proved the bias that exists in the facial recognition against Black people, because and it reflected the bias of the people that had created the system, and the bias that's out there in the world, right? In media and literature and photos, the whole thing. And so, one, again, one, we need to recognize that it is there, and again, something that we cannot give it the whole reign, the keys to everything yet, because that bias is there, because that bias is already in our justice system, that
Mhm.
bias is already in our educational system, that bias is already in our healthcare system, that bias exists in our system. So of course it's going to be exist in the tech as well.
Let me
And I
let
feel
me say
by
something.
participation, it's one way we can help to
Mhm.
mitigate that to some level.
Let-
3 minutes,
Yeah,
Antonio.
I just want. Yeah, I want to mention this. I don't know if we're gonna go on the other side or not.
We are.
Okay. Yeah, something we want to talk about with that. What you're saying right now, and
Hmm.
it might spring up a new, and I hope it springs up a new idea as far as us concerned to keep us grounded. So there may need to be the development of schools of thoughts to keep us grounded like that.
Hmm.
you know Keep us with practicing critical thinking and all those particular things, the natural stuff. You might have to have institutions set up to keep us, from not going through that, to be coming not to becoming programmable just beings and just sitting up here in the matrix. We might have a develop entities to keep us grounded like that.
We
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
The more we get this quote unquote artificial intelligence, like in a nutshell, if there's one thing we got to develop, we got to continue to develop our own intelligence to be able to use it and not be used by it.
Okay.
And it's critical that we continue to develop our own critical thinking, our own intelligence, keeping, like you say, grounded, and stay get more grounded in our own consciousness, because that's really what this is about: our consciousness, our attention, our intelligence.
we're going to continue the conversation on the other side of noon on our respective YouTube channels. You can go to The Journey with Antonio. You can also go to Vince Robinson on YouTube and continue to take in this information. So we want you to continue watching us. When you get to our channels, don't forget, like, comment, and subscribe. We got about 65 seconds. Brother Antonio, you want to give us the announcement about your event in September?
Yes, September 19th at Gino's Event Center. We're going to be giving our flowers to some of our greats in law enforcement, or at least some of the first and over trailblazers, you can say, in law enforcement. The first black chief of Cleveland, Patrick Oliver. The first black sheriff of Carter County, Clifford Pinckney. We're trying to get the first black fire chief, Chief Stubbs, and some other greats around the city that have done some things that should be
35 seconds.
All right. So September 19th, 216-323-6155.
Okay, and don't forget about Donnie and Vince at Larchmere Arts on September 13th. It's a couple of days away. Go online, get your tickets. You can go to my Facebook page and click on the link and get your tickets today. We only have 50 seats, folks, so you want to get them while they are available. Big ups to our third party in the control room over there at the radio station, Tone Harley. We appreciate you for what you do for us, and we thank you for listening. As always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Peace.
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 All right, 12 o'clock noon right here on YouTube, The Journey with Antonio and Vince Robinson on YouTube, and also the 360 Info Network Facebook page. A lot of different ways that you can watch our program. We're having a conversation with Michael S. Easterling. He is a phenomenal brother, I'm telling you. I mean, this brother, he is a globetrotter. Last year, I think he spent some time in Colombia, and he spent some time in Thailand, and he spent some time in Mexico, and every once in a while he'll break camp and come back home to Cleveland. So we're glad to have you here, brother, and we just wish you well in your planetary endeavors. We're talking about AI today, and you mentioned Chat GPT launching, I think you said in 2022, and then becoming into prominence in 2023, and it was something that just took off like a rocket. I
Yeah.
mean, if you had invested in Chat GPT stock at the beginning, if it was available, you would be a very rich person by now if you got in on the ground floor. But ChatGPT is not the only one. We mentioned Aisha, AISHA,
Uh-huh.
but there's also something called Claude.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have models like Grok, which I think is tied to Elon Musk. I
Mm-hmm.
think China has a version of an AI platform. So you have different AI platforms, and I would have to imagine that they are probably good for different things. I know folks who use Claude they're using it primarily, I think, for business applications. So I would like you to talk about the different platforms, and I'd also like to talk to you about the idea of prompting, because it could just be
Yeah.
someone selling software, but there are some who say that if you have conversations as opposed to typing in the prompts, if you have that conversation and you use your voice to have conversations with it, it can be even more effective. Is there any validity to that from your perspective?
Absolutely, 1000%. Totally yes. And just a quick clarification. I think it might have been 2021 when ChatGPT came out, and then 2022. I honestly, these years go by so fast. But I think it might have been 2021 when it started. I started using it in January 2022. But either way, yeah, I was definitely an early adopter.
Mhm.
And also quickly, something you mentioned, I'm just grabbing these things before I forget. I want to give a big shout out to Cleveland because, I have been able to travel, a few places in the world, and especially in the summer, there's no place I'd rather be than Cleveland. And that's for real. I'm talking about from anywhere in the world. The arts here we have, the culture, the weather, the ability to move around easily in the city. It really is a real special place, and I really wish more Clevelanders really knew how great
Appreciate
this
that.
place is. Yeah, because and I'm talking about you know, I think I'm around 30 countries so far, hundreds of cities around the world. But there's something real special about this place, and I am happy to be from here. And I just want to give a shout out, to Cleveland and encourage Clevelanders to appreciate Cleveland, differently than we have. Because this is my foundation. This is where I started growing food. This is where I started, my gardens, where everything, starts and comes back to. So I
Mhm.
just want to put that out there. Um, Prompting, yes, that was the very first realization, the very, very first time that I used chat. um, Before I thought about how it could change the world. I saw that prompting is the new programming language, right? Like the computer programmers back in the 90s, it was the programmers that were getting all these huge, ridiculous salaries, four or $500,000 salaries starting, a year or two out of college, because they could talk to the computers and create systems on the computers in computer language. Um, Prompting is the new way that people can interact with the computers and essentially program, create the programs. It is through conversation. Again, the GPT part of GPT is all about language and understanding language. And prompting is the way that we interface and create and build. And yes, I use Claude, I use Gemini, Perplexity, Chat. I use this one called Venice. Several different programs, but all of them, the thing that they share is how that we interact with them, and it is through either talking. You can use speech to text, or you can just type in the command. But the way that we do, the way that we structure our prompts, the way that we engage with our prompts determines the outcomes that we get. Um, yeah, and I would like to. I hope we have a chance. I'd like to share some resources about some
Absolutely.
specific prompts that I've made. But so, for example, I just want to give a quick. If I say one of the prompts, from our earlier conversation that you talked about how the computers know about us, right? I've been using some of the different models to better understand myself and my own patterns. And one of the ways that I did that was to do a writing analysis, right? I've written several essays and written several things over the years. And when we talk about, for example, we talked about the agent in our earlier conversation. I wanted to build an agent that could write and make posts for me, for example. But I didn't want it to be in the computer voice. I want it to be in my voice. But how do I describe what my writing style is? I'm not a linguist. I'm not a forensic analysis voice, writer recognizer. So I created a prompt. And so the first prompt could be, here, I'm uploading these documents, analyze my writing style, right? And I did that prompt a while ago, and I got, some good feedback. But then, again, I'm summarizing several months of working with the thing. And I think I did it with Claude first. I asked Claude to make me a prompt to be a writing analysis and to give me an analysis of my writing style. So the thing is, I would upload documents and then Claude would tell me what my writing style is. But first, I had Claude create the prompt. The prompt, like the one sentence prompt I said, turned out to be like a 2-page prompt. And that wasn't the writing analysis, that was just the prompt. It gave it a role, it gave it a task, and these are the fundamental components of any prompt. There's a role, assume the persona of a forensic writing analysis. Your task is to analyze these documents and do an analysis of the style, by grammar, uh, structure, etc. There's a context that's given. There's an output that's given. I wanted either a Word document, a spreadsheet, whatever. Those are some fundamental basics. But the prompt itself was almost 2 pages long, and the analysis I got back of my own writing style was almost 20 pages long. Single space text. One, I would have never. It's a prompt that I was not capable of writing. I don't have the knowledge to write the prompt that was used to create this analysis. And the analysis, when I got it back, it was honestly like reading a psychological report, because I had some of the docs I wrote were, maybe it was like a 20-25 year scan, and it was telling me stuff that it was honestly like really getting a psychoanalysis of myself. And it pointed out things that I always do, pointed out things that I never do. It pointed out how I frame things, how I think about things. And that was extraordinarily useful. And then I can then put that into an instruction for another project, or you call it or custom GPT. I can use that analysis as an instruction for a custom GPT, so that anything that comes out of that custom GPT is going to sound like me.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so, but it was crazy, man. I'm not even gonna lie. I was like, wow, this is like getting a reading. This is for real, like getting a reading done about myself. And that segue back to like what's already out there. I remember asking my kids a long time ago, they were still in school, like, if Google is worth all these hundreds of billions of dollars, but all their products are free, right? They don't sell software. So how are they worth, gabillion dollars, right?
Right.
Every time we go on, every search that we make, everything that we're searching for, what time we search, what we search for next, what we searched for previously, all those are creating data points about us, about our personality, about what we're concerned about, what we are afraid of, what we are learning about. And it creates a pattern, it creates a profile. And that profile is sold to advertisers. And that's been going on with 20 years now.
Mm-hmm.
If they say there's a I guess it's a phrase or whatever. If the product is free, you're the product.
Mm-hmm.
Right? On Facebook, everything you do on Facebook, everything is tracked, everything is monetized. All those stuff that's free to use, they're getting data about us, millions of data points.
That's it.
Tens of thousands of data points in each individual. And yeah, it's very real to say that the aggregation of that data, they know more about us than we know about ourselves.
Michael, I wonder, because it seems that you're saying the objective is to sell.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a danger in them knowing us to the extent that they do? Is there any way that we can push back against them knowing so much about us? I'm on sometimes, and I'll be having a conversation with somebody, and then I'll go to do a Google search, and I'll say what, and then it will complete what I was asking for without me even saying what I was asking for.
But you've already said it, because again, we're talking again about pattern recognition, right? And it's got all it quote unquote knows, what you're thinking about. That is really the goal of it. That's why these big companies, let's see, Apple's the only one that actually makes products. Google, Facebook, or Meta now are selling data. They're selling information, and they're selling information about us in aggregate. And and the whole thing about, for example, I'm just going to take for example, and again, just a disclaimer: if you believe that there was meddling in elections or not, right? The mechanism through which it came was by advertising, propaganda, showing. Like, so one time, because I really don't use Facebook a lot. You ask, how do we do it? I just downloaded the Facebook app for the first time in my life about 3 weeks ago. I've never had it on my phone. I use it very, very sparingly. I think I might have. I made a post. I actually repeated the post a couple days ago. That was the first post I made like in probably 3 years. I really don't use it. And one time I did go on there and I looked at it, and I was just going. This is probably during the Black Lives Matter era a couple years ago. When I looked at it, I saw the stories that were coming up, and I was just like, if I didn't know better, I would think that Black people getting killed by the police was like the biggest thing going on in the world right now, like the only thing going on in the world right now. And while I definitely recognize that is a problem, it is a concern, the vast majority, the reality is very different from that. I mean, we kill ourselves much more. Like that's not even a debate. You know what I mean? It's like it's not even news, unfortunately, when we are um, the damage that black
We inflict
men,
upon
black boys,
ourselves.
that's not even news. It's really
Mm-hmm.
not even news. But
Mm-hmm.
when I looked at this, I was like, I'm thinking to myself, like, wow, this is what's going on. So I'm saying that to say that we are programmable beings, and we do get programmed every day. We get programmed by by what we see on TV. We get programmed by what we hear on the news. We got social media, and now one of the dangers. This is even one of the dangers of AI. Back to this idea about our need for critical thinking is the lie looks just as real as the truth, and when that happens, we don't know what to believe. Things like science doesn't matter. Things that facts don't matter. It's what I believe matters. That's the only thing it is. And what I believe is not even my own thought. It's what I've been conditioned to think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I see these messages all the time, and then the things that I see, that must be what's most important,
Mm-hmm.
whether it is or isn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if I don't have, like, even now, like, even if I see something before I send, share, whatever, even talk about, I try to fact check it as
Right,
much as I
right,
can,
right.
because the fake stuff looks just as real. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
That's
And
the
if people are
problem.
not going to fact check that, and we start spreading, it only takes a second to say fire, people start running, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or this is going on, people start reacting. And
But
if our reactions, that's what marketing is.
mm-hmm.
It's something that it's a message being promoted to impact our behavior. That behavior is
Mm-hmm.
for us to reach in, get our credit card, reach us to get our money out and buy something.
Mm-hmm.
And can it be used for anything else? Absolutely, it can be.
See, but what's the dangers, Michael? See, that's the thing. That's what you touched on something that's been bothering me with that for a long time, with all the authentic looking fake stuff,
Hmm.
if you can put it like that. And so the question is, where are we going with this? Because it has to. I guess my conspiracy juices is just too rampant these days, and so
Hmm.
um, I have to look down the road and say, okay, where are we going with this? Because we're going to get to the point that we might be already there. We can't distinguish what is truth and what is not truth. So, what is the advantage of the powers that be having us at that place? So now, what do we become? So we can't distinguish or decipher what is real and what is not real. So that means you could be getting good, truthful information, and you won't act on it. You won't move on it because that could be AI. It could be not. So is that taking us further into that controllable type of atmosphere that we may be going to? So I'm gonna rely on this because I can't trust this and that. So it must. I gotta hook my wagons up to something to believe because I don't know what to believe. So
Yeah.
that that's the danger. That's what I'm afraid of right there because now, when you putting out and outputting good information, folks is not responding. So
Right.
therefore, the powers that be got us all dummied down to where I'm gonna wait till I see. It's almost like we was doing in like you referenced. Us we want until the white man come on and say it so on TV. We tend to believe it. At that point,
Yeah.
so it's almost like revalidating that type of system. We won't know what to do until okay, please tell us what the truth is.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think we're there. I think we've been there. I mean, I think that is the danger. I think we already are there. I think we've been conditioned to
Wow.
receive and consume, and that more and more. That's why I go back to the critical thinking. We have to learn discernment. We've got. It's funny. I had a conversation recently with a friend of mine that, yeah, we do live in an age where there's access to more information than ever before, right? But access to information is not the same thing as the ability to process and to discern and thus have knowledge, right? There's
Right.
information and then there's knowledge. Information are just data points, they're just out there. But if we're not able to have a framework to
Mm-hmm.
to analyze them and to understand what it means and what it means for us and how to verify or check or research as opposed to just accept and consume. Okay, yeah, I believe it, whatever. Those are different skill sets. Those are different capacities. And so we're at a very interesting time where we've got more information and less knowledge at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think that is a danger. That's a huge danger. And so um, those are the things that we need. I keep going back to the critical thinking, learn media literacy, computer literacy, for example. How do I fact check? How do I go and get multiple sources and know, which sources to trust, which ones to
Right,
be more skeptical
right,
of?
right,
Now you used to be able to say you can go by what you see. You can't even go by what you see anymore.
right, right.
And I'm
That's
saying,
the
because
point.
I've been using
Yeah.
AI to create digital images, and and I'm saying this as someone who looks at them every day, all day. When I take the test, I can maybe get 60%, maybe 70%. I can identify what is AI and what's not. And it's only getting better and better. The point is you really cannot tell by looking at it, in a lot of cases. And that's images or video, right? Anything can be fake. So we have to learn how to, one, receive information and not just react, process it. We need to learn how to respond. And this, honestly, I feel like this is, you take the tech completely out of it. These are things that we need to know anyway, right? How to respond as opposed to react. Somebody um, steps on my shoes or brushes my car door, and am I going to have an emotional reaction and escalate something that could end in violence, that could end in some tragedy, or am I going to respond and act with intention about what the consequences of my next move are, thinking strategically. And I think this is critical as men. And I'm saying, as a black man, for us black men to be more responsible about our intentions, with our health, with our families, with our communities, and with the information that we take in. And I do watch. Believe me, I have one of my guilty pleasures is watching some crazy dumb stuff on Instagram. Sometimes I definitely do that, and I see um, the
Magnetism.
attention draw. It
Okay.
does it
Mm-hmm.
draws us in. That's what it's
Mm-hmm.
designed to do. But I
Mm-hmm.
have the understanding that that's what it's designed to do, and so I regulate that as best that I can. Right? I sometimes I definitely get to a point where, man, I know I'm tripping out watching this stuff too much. Let me turn this off, put this down, go sit and meditate. I don't even have to sometimes do anything else, but just meditate and just bring that perspective. Bring by the perspective of my own consciousness back into the forefront.
Hmm.
Because those are the thing, man. The ancient stuff is like really what I think it always comes down to: our breath, our controlling our breath, monitoring the process of me breathing. Reading every day, or before I even pick up a phone or anything in the morning, just wake up, give thanks and gratitude, and stretch my body and breathe deeply, and get up and do some push-ups. Maybe make coffee and then maybe check my email or check the stuff, but not just wake up to the phone, go to sleep to the phone. You know what I'm saying? We
Mm-hmm.
gotta, and again, I'm not even saying it's got to be an either or, but I think it is a need for both, right? We have to continue to be mindful of the things that make, like you said earlier, like that make us human and that keep us human. Because the tech is going to be what it is, but we have to choose, especially when there's so much out there for us. The system is based on us being consumers, right? 1%, 10% of the society controls more than half the wealth.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
means it's based on us buying stuff. It's based on us using stuff. It's based on us
Mm-hmm.
consuming stuff. It's not built for us to be consumers, and it's working exactly how it's supposed to work right now. To keep us controlled, medicated, um, what is other anesthetized, right? So we don't feel the pain of our existence, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's work. It takes some effort. It gets easier with practice, but I'm a firm believer. And again, I'm an active user of the tech. I'm not saying don't use the tech. I'm not saying don't benefit from it. I am
Mm-hmm.
saying still work out, meditate, eat right, you
Got to
know,
do it.
Communicate with your brother, communicate with your family and stuff like that. Maintain those relationships that are important because they're important.
Yeah. I think really the key is balance.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a technological age, so you can't just completely eliminate the technology.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you have to be tuned in. And I
Mm-hmm.
think these distractions occur to, as you pointed out earlier, to collect data, and then on top of everything else, you got the algorithms. So the way the algorithms work, you start tapping into a certain truth. For
Right.
instance, have you heard of Tartary?
I've
Tar-
not.
Tartaria was a civilization that the Russian Empire was built on. And I just saw this yesterday. That's why it's so fresh in my mind. You go to Russia and they've got all these images of black people,
Uh,
the black people who came before the white folks that are occupying what we call Russia today. But before it was Russia, it was Tartaria. So if you have an interest in this subject matter and you start watching videos about that, it's going to keep bringing you that stuff.
Right, right.
And so you're getting this new perspective about history, and it's very intriguing, but it's going to suck you in. And so
right.
you can be on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, and it's just going to keep feeding you this stuff. So it keeps you distracted. Now, key is that as you're taking this information in, you're thinking critically and you're analyzing what you're getting. But at some point, you got to shut it down.
Yeah.
And that's the issue that we have. People cannot separate themselves from these things. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you walking down the street like this,
Yeah.
there could be flowers like these flowers that are on my phone
Right.
in your periphery, but you don't see the
Right.
flower, you don't
Right.
see the tree, because you plugged into the phone, so you have disconnected yourself from nature. On
Right.
top of the fact that you wearing your Nikes with the rubber soles on them that disconnect you from your relationship with nature. I mean, it's like it's an all-out assault on us having a direct connection to the earth.
Yeah.
You work 8 hours, you get in your car, you're listening to the radio, they're programming you, you get home, you walk in the house, first thing you do, you turn on the television.
Mm-hmm.
They got you plugged in.
Mm-hmm.
And from the time you got off work to the time you go to bed, television on,
Yeah.
feeding you, watching you, because the TV has an eye on it that's watching you. And then you're living in this smart house, the toaster listening to you, the refrigerator listening to you, the HVAC system is listening to you, your light bulbs are listening to you. Everything is plugged into you, and you're not even plugged into yourself. How do you plug into yourself? You pick up the book.
Mm-hmm.
Reading the book. Lynn, you got to look up, bruh. Look up. You're reading the book, and the act of reading is gives you the same benefit as you meditating, the same benefit as you praying, the same benefit as you putting your hands on a tree.
Okay.
All of these things are connected to each other. But when we tune into that technology, in a way, we disconnect from our relationship to the earth. And I think that's really the lesson in all that we've talked about today. We can use these tools to enhance the quality of our lives, just as you did. You asked it to analyze your writing, and then it gave you a psychoanalysis.
Pretty much, yeah.
They say sometimes don't do that if you're afraid of what you might find out.
Sure.
Because it may identify some dark spaces in your existence, that you have to come face to face and to grips with. But it is a tool. I asked a question a few moments ago, and I wanted you to give us some guidance on some of the different platforms like
Uh,
Claude, like
sure.
ChatGPT. I think you mentioned Venice and a few
Yeah,
others. Can you talk about the different platforms and how they can be used beneficially?
sure. And yeah, they're all fundamentally more alike than different in how they work. They are, trained. The differences may be on what data they're trained on, how much they have access to, et cetera. So, for example, ChatGPT is the flagship product from a company called OpenAI. They were the first to the first to the market in terms of people. A lot of times it's like Kleenex. You think of AI, everybody thinks ChatGPT. They were the first out. Um, Claude is by a company called Anthropic, and they're very similar. It's also they have a large language model at their base, and they have. I think honestly the biggest difference between the two, or one of the major differences, is their corporate philosophy. And I would just for time's sake, I'm going to ask people, if you're interested, to look up and do some research on the differences between their philosophies. One is specifically, taking a more commercial approach. The other one is more what I consider more altruistic approach. But I use Claude more now, day to day. I found it to be very effective for reasoning, for doing more long form writing or analysis. I use Perplexity for when I want to do web search. It seems to have better access to, uh, or at least at the time I started using it, because I know they change daily. They change in real time all the time. But when I want to say, for example, like I'm planning a trip, for example, and I say I want to say, hey, I got 2 weeks in Thailand. I want to spend this much money. Give me the best itinerary. I found Perplexity to be a little bit better at, scouring the internet, looking at reviews, looking at other sites, and compiling those and putting together information and resources. Not that Claude couldn't or ChatGPT couldn't, but again, at the time that I started using Claude, Perplexity, they were better at, because at first, like for example, Chat did not even have access to the internet. And when the very first Chat came out, I think if it came out in whatever year it came out, it only had access up to information that was like maybe like 2 years behind the time that it came out. It wasn't like I couldn't look up, yes, what was the score of the game yesterday. It didn't do that when it first came out, because it didn't have access. The model training stopped. Let's just say if it was 2022, the model only went up to 2020, whatever the year was exactly. And so now, for example, so I use Claude, Chat, I use Perplexity. Oh, Microsoft has a product. I think they Copilot is their
Yeah,
main one.
yeah,
Yeah,
I've seen that.
and
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and it's integrated into their infrastructure. Word, Word and Excel, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And their own browser. I did use Microsoft Edge for a while. It was a browser like Safari or Chrome or whatever that had the AI built into it. I also used Venice, and I like Venice. Venice doesn't necessarily have the most current model access, but Venice is built for privacy. Venice stores information on your computer and not back up in the cloud. So, for example, even if I use Venice, I have my Venice account. If I use it on my phone versus on my computer, the queries I do on my computer are not going to show up on my phone, and vice versa.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's built for privacy. It's built
Mm-hmm.
for, so for example, if I want to do anything that I don't want just inherently set up to the cloud, I would use Venice.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, if I was doing a personal budget or processing even client information, like if I was going to do a budget or anything that I would not want to be public, And when I say public, it's relative because most people probably never have the wherewithal to access it, although the ones that could. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but Venice is built on privacy, and it's built on not having your information into these, it, to not having other GPTs trained on your data, whatever you upload. But so and again, the other thing is now I find myself using them
Mm-hmm.
together. I probably use
Oh,
Chat
really?
and Claude the most. Like, for example, when I did the writing analysis, I did the exact same problem. This is something I did. Again, I encourage people to just try and see for yourself. I would give the exact same prompt to the different
Mm-hmm.
models, say 3 different models, and just see what comes
Mm-hmm.
out. That's an easy way to see for you what your purposes are. Because, again, if I'm trying to just get captions for an Instagram post, for example, I don't necessarily need a model that's built for writing academic research, right? I just need
Mm-hmm.
something that's going to say, hey, I was at the Eiffel Tower, the lights came on at 9, blah blah blah. I'm not doing a detailed, historical analysis of the relationship of, the French Revolution or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's one thing I'd say, just for a beginner, put the same prompt into
Mm-hmm.
a couple different models and
Mm-hmm.
see what comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that get to your point? So Claude, for example, I did connect Claude to PowerPoint. So I was working on some presentations, and I used to do them on myself and put all the components of a presentation together. But PowerPoint was the first external program I gave Claude access to, and I just put in a PDF, and it made a whole presentation way better. It would have taken me hours over several days to do it, and it gave it back in a PowerPoint file. I was able just to make a couple quick tweaks, and boom, it's ready to go. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something. Again, I know that Chat, they have these connectors or skills that they call them, that you can pre-program the chats with. I mean, the GPTs with, and yeah, they
Mm-hmm.
I think so. So again, for 90, probably 95% of users, they all do more or less the same thing. I
Mm-hmm.
think, for example, when I'm doing more, uh, I'd say long form writing or more like business analysis stuff, I found Claude to be more helpful for me, but I still will run the same prompt in Chat just to make sure to fact check,
Okay.
go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah,
And so is they gelling up kind of like the same?
yeah,
Okay.
they do.
Okay.
And then there's
Uh,
another, like, so when I was making the custom GPTs, I started off with the same prompt. I put it through all these systems, then I put them back into Claude and had Claude to synthesize them. And the
mm-hmm.
prompt was something like, take these information,
Mm-hmm.
give me a playbook, don't
Mm-hmm.
repeat anything,
Mm-hmm.
and give it the most detailed back summary or analysis without repetition that can be used, because you got to tell it what it's going to be used for.
I
That
see.
helps it to construct it to be used for a custom GPT. So, for example, and again, I hope anyone who's interested can visit the site or reach out to me. There's email on the site, or you can hit me at mse@open-roads.net, and I'd be happy to share a lot of this information, because most people, I say, just like anything else, we're using a fraction of the capacity. A lot of people use Chat as a search engine, which,
Mm-hmm.
like, for example, like, I don't know, what's the best iPhone to buy, or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
what's the population of Cleveland, or something like that. Those are search engine questions.
I see.
But in preparation, like for today, I did do a search, for example, of what are the fastest, and I think I did it in Claude. What are the fastest growing cities in the United States over the past 20 years,
Okay.
right? A lot of them were in Texas, Arizona, Florida, out west. Then I said, of those cities, which ones are in areas of persistent drought? Because
Mm-hmm.
I was anticipating the data center question, right?
Right. Right. Mm-hmm.
And it gave me 3 different levels of drought. There's persistent drought, there's seasonal drought, like maybe it just didn't rain that much this year.
Mm-hmm.
Persistent drought means it hasn't rained that much over the last 10 years, and it's been going decreasing. And then, there's all kinds of factors, again, that I, I wouldn't have necessarily thought to even ask that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll run the same one back to Claude and see to chat and see what it comes up as well, and then put them together. So how we use it really does matter. And I think it is part of the fact checking, with anything is use, multiple sources. I think it's one of the basic tenets of fact checking in general, is to cite multiple sources, see how they respond. Um, Pre-training, Vince, you mentioned something earlier about pre-training, because these things are conditioned to tell us what we want to hear, basically, in a nutshell. But I have a master prompt that I put into each. Like, if you go into the lower left hand corner where it has your name, you can hit that, and then it says settings come up. You can put in instructions, and so in the instructions, I have it's like a 1.5 page long prompt that basically tells it, don't give me any BS. Fact check everything. Don't tell me what I want to hear. Critically analyze everything. Play the devil's advocate. All those go into the master prompt.
Okay.
So, and again, this is one like I do with those clients. It's real simple. Ask the exact same question with the prompt or without it, the master prompt put in there, and just see what you get.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and invariably, the one with the master prompt is going to give back a different level of
Is that right?
response, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so these are all different tactics and practices that I've developed, and just to make sure I'm not getting, fed something that just I want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there are different platforms. They're all more alike than different. I think the one that works best is the ones for what you need, and you have to determine what that is. And I think by experimenting with them, you can find out, like, oh, this fits my need best, because it's not a one size fits all thing,
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Can you give us an idea of cost? Because I know you get on some of them and you go so far, and then they're letting you know, you want more, you got to pay. So
Yeah. So the basic for chat and for Claude, they both have free versions, and then they both have, like, the first paid version is like $20 a month. And I'm just now, like, in the last few months, started hitting use limits on the pro. So I have pro versions of Claude, pro versions of Perplexity, pro version of Venice, and I'm using them all to the pretty much the capacity. So they reset, for example. Like, for example, if I'm going to do a PowerPoint, like a 30-page slideshow for PowerPoint, I can maybe do like 2 or 3 of those. Then I got to wait a few hours till my usage resets on Claude. But if I was really doing them every day, like if I was doing that every day, I'd probably have to go to the next level up, which is $200 a month.
Whoa.
So
Okay.
and that would be for businesses, and that's, again, only, if you're making money, it's definitely worth it.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm in a group, a chat group where I'm definitely at the low end of users. These guys were already programmers before AI, and they were already information scientists before AI, and they've been posting stuff like they're using thousands of dollars a month in Claude tokens. I don't even know what they're doing, to be honest. So I'm like, I'm definitely, I have a call scheduled with one of the guys. I really want to understand, like, what are you doing that's using that much data? But that said, most people, I'd say, for example, most nonprofits, small businesses, the $20 a month plan is more than enough to certainly get you going, to the point where if you're making more money, then it makes sense to go to the next level. But the free plans are great for just starting out. The $20 a month plan would probably do 90% of what most small enterprises would need. Like, if you're just doing social media posts or business analysis, things like that, or getting scripts. I have one, you program in for nonprofit. You program in your website, just your website alone, and it'll produce video scripts, to do promotional videos and things of that sort, or case for support videos. So you just plug in just your website alone, and it'll give you a whole video script, the B-roll, explanations, the audio narrative, all that. And then you can take that and then put it into like a text to video program to actually make the videos. And that's all on the free to the, well, users can do it for free actually. Creating it, you needed the pro plan. I needed the pro plan to create that, which is $20 a month.
Well, if for $20 a month, you got a COO, you got a CFO, you got a marketing person, and you got somebody to write grants for you, that's $20 a month as well
That
spent.
could be well spent.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Look at it like that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to touch on one thing here, because my brain, like I said, I got my conspiracy hat on. Seem like I'm wearing it more often than not these days, and because as you learn more, even like I say, through the internet, you learn more and more. You should be getting a little bit more skeptical of things as it goes on. You're like, okay, and now we're talking about the possibilities of talking about these algorithms. Vince, you always bring up our attention span towards these electronic devices and stuff like that, and so it makes me think that knowing the past history of the powers that be in this country, they're going to use this to their advantage. We see it, and we know this. Now, by us, and I'm talking about frequencies, and I remember also as a sister, Dr. Pravati sent me a videotape. I'm gonna have to I think I have to go back and find it. But this one doctor guy, European doctor that was living outside the country, and he was talking about the blue light effects behind the screens of our phones, of our computers and stuff, and how that is affecting us, and how that can deal with you as like what I was saying, and dealing with frequencies and this whole thing about us. My conspiracy mind would say, if they got me looking at this thing all the time and got my attention on it, what negatively they can do to me as far as controlling me, controlling the people, putting stuff in, my mind. I think they even made a few movies in reference to it. This whole brainwashing piece. That's what gets me to thinking and make me a little afraid of anything that that has our attention span like that. I guess you could even say the television is like that to a degree as well. But what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, 80% of Americans took the COVID vaccine. I mean, it can be used. It is being used. I mean, we are being programmed every day, and whether again, like whatever the message, it can be used for whatever message the people who control it want it to be used for.
Yes.
And it is being used. It is being used for that already. And so I would look at any situation where, even I'm sure on Instagram or Facebook, we've seen these things where all these media companies, I think there's like 3 to 5 companies that control thousands of TV, radio stations. They all get the same script. The cities change. They literally have like the same script. And these are just on the surface level. We're not, you mentioned frequency. That's a whole nother level, right? That doesn't even require language or video, right? Or things like
that's
that.
what I'm saying. Yes.
Straight energy. And so, it can be used, and I'm sure it is being used for whatever. I mean, the manifestation, like, for example, why hasn't, well, I'm not, some of the biggest, the drugs that are sold are antidepressants. I think the main drugs are for blood pressure management and antidepressants. I know those are in the big top 5, maybe top 10, but those are also the ones that again, not a doctor, not giving medical advice, but I do know that meditation can lower blood pressure. Exercise, things that maintain good health are good for your blood pressure and for your depression. You know, our oxytocin, our hormones can be regulated by the foods that we eat, by the practices that we do for our health. And so the pharmaceutical companies don't make money off of that. They don't make money off of healthy people, and they don't make money off of dead people, right? They make money by maintaining chronic illness over the lifetime of a revenue source, being us, the people taking the medicines for a lifetime. They're not curative, right? They maintain a revenue cycle for years or decades. And thinking that just even giving us the idea for elections, I think one of our major politicians who certainly sits in the Oval Office right now has outright said you're not going to need to vote in whatever period of time. So and that was actually one of the I forget the doc that came out a few years ago. It was about how social media is used to influence elections. A lot of the times it's not about vote for this candidate or that candidate. It's to keep people from voting in the first place, because an organized minority can beat an unorganized majority anytime, right? If I convince you that you don't need to vote, if I convince 100 of y'all you don't need to vote, and I got 10 people who are going to vote, guess who's going to win the election? The 10 that are voting, not the 100 that are not. So it's easy to steal an election if nobody's voting. And just for example, these are all examples. It's easy to convince someone to take a pill or to take a shot than to tell them, hey, eating right and working out will have the same effect or not a better effect. And the things that we are nowadays, it's almost like from the conspiracy theorist mindset, I guess. If we're hearing something about it every day, that's probably not the most important thing going on. It's probably the things that we're not hearing about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
what's
exactly.
up with that? Like, we hear a lot about stuff that doesn't matter.
Case in point, about a year ago, all we were talking about was Diddy. And now we moved on to the Epstein files. There's so many things, so many ways that they keep us distracted and away from accessing the power that lives within us. It goes back to programming. You mentioned that small number of companies that own the majority of the media outlets, and that really amplifies the importance of what we're doing right now. This is like counterterrorism. I don't even know if we can use that word. We might get flagged because we use, the world that we live in. You mentioned the fact that you prepared by asking a question about data centers, and I didn't want us to skip over that. So what did you want to share with us about data centers?
Oh, no, really, really nothing. I was just anticipating things that could come up, because it's about energy use and sustainability. Because so, for example, like things that we're not hearing about right now is the water crisis, right? Fresh water. We're blessed to live in where we do, where it's not a crisis for us. I think they say 20% of the country, is it the country or the world's? A significant part of the world's fresh water, certainly the United States fresh water, is here in the Great Lakes. And but the fastest growing cities are not Great Lakes cities; they're desert cities, right? They're desert cities or places where there's less water. And I just saw, I think it was this morning, that the federal government is now going to be cutting, I think by a third, Nevada, Arizona, and one of the other, they call it lower basin states that get water from the Colorado River. There's 8 states that get water from the Colorado River. Those include Arizona, New Mexico, California, Nevada, and a couple others. But those are where some of the fastest growing cities are, and literally the water is running out. Again, for anything I say, don't believe me at all. Just do a little bit of research. They have the satellite photos. I've actually been out to some of these places hiking, and I've been out where the app showed a river last year, and now it's dry sand dust this year.
Really?
it's not imagination at all. I mean, there's definitely, you know, the Hoover Dam, Colorado River just hit a historic low, and the previous historic low was about 2 or 3 years ago. You know, and so we can, you know, we can talk about the data center issues are an issue. They do use a lot of water, but the water shortages have been happening over the last 20 years.
Now,
So we got to wake up to these things
yeah,
that
yeah,
these
that's
are
funny.
important, you know.
That's funny that that we hear. I remember an interview
Mhm.
with Hillary Clinton. You know, that's when she was running. What was that? 10 years ago? What was a good?
More, yeah, that
Yeah,
was
you
20
know, when Hillary was running.
2008. She ran against Obama, actually. So that was the
Yeah, yeah, okay,
2008.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I remember listening to an interview with her, and somebody they was talking about wars, and they were
Hmm.
saying, "Hey, what would you think would be the next great conflict, and what would it be about?" And it stuck with me at that time. She said water.
Right. Right.
She said water back then, and that stuck with me. I said water. Wow, we
Hmm.
gonna have some issues with some water, you know, and that
Yeah.
stuck with me in reference to that.
Right. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but yeah, check out right now. Like for example, a lot of the areas that are conflict areas in Israel and the Middle East, it's desert, right? We're talking about who has control of the aquifers, where the water comes from. If you don't have water, you don't have a place in the desert. Period. And then a lot of the Saudis, the Emirate countries, are investing in Africa for water rights. They've got the oil, they don't have water, and they
Hmm.
are investing in other places to get water access. Even like in the travels here in the States, which I encourage everybody, travel to the United States. It's a big, beautiful country. The physical, we've got everything here. We've got desert, we've got mountains, we've got forests. But so many times I was out hiking out in Arizona or Nevada or Utah, and the people, yeah, where are you from? I'm from Cleveland. Oh, we need to build a water pipeline from there to here. And I'm
Take
thinking,
our water. Just take our
or
water away from us.
or people could stop moving to the desert. You know what I mean? Yeah, where there is
Hmm.
no water. But
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
so the mindset shift, bro, is really, I think for me, all this, it all comes down to the mindset and the consciousness because we're we need water to live, certainly. And the things like the water, the quality of our food, right? American food, American poultry, American pork, American beef is literally illegal. Illegal in many countries around the world because of the things that are allowed to be put in the food, the bleaching, the chloride, the just the known carcinogens, right, that are legal to be in our food here are illegal, and talk about for Black people, for poor people, for people who don't have the luxury of buying everything organic and all that, which still is an issue here in the United States because the organic industry in America still allows a certain number of carcinogens and pollutants to go into the system if it hits a certain threshold. But what we eat, what we drink, what we breathe, those things matter for us regardless of whatever the tech is going on. And those issues are important. And we do have, is Flint's water right yet? That's been,
Hmm. That's good.
Probably not.
what,
Oh,
10,
yeah,
how
good
long is that,
question.
10 years?
Yeah.
And that affects our everything. That affects our life. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And
I mean,
so, yeah.
you gotta look at it like this. I was just
Hmm.
talking to somebody the other day about it. Just think about it. You know, this whole thing. You know, just the amazement of water itself. It's the
Hmm.
most plentiful thing on the planet.
Hmm.
You know, and your body has to be, 75 to 80% of it is the only element that can get, be viable in three different states of being.
Right.
They found that water is sacred, it has memory, and so something is very, very important about this thing called water that we
Right.
take for granted.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so, bringing that back to the data centers, right? And I'm just going to talk about this concept of triple bottom line. This is something that comes from my work in urban agriculture and the sustainability in general. And now we can apply it to how we're talking about AI. How does it affect we could talk about the three E's: equity, environment, and economy. or with anything. We got to look at how it affects the environment, the people, and then our economic reality, right? And so right now, there is opportunity for AI, for example, to improve. It's impacting the economy regardless. There's jobs taken away. There are jobs being created. Where do we fit in that? Has
Yes,
to do with how
yes,
we're approaching, how we're using it.
yes.
It's definitely having an impact on the environment. It uses water. It takes extractive resources. So from a policy perspective, it's we can look at. I think the question of is it going to exist or not? I'm not really questioning that. It seems like it's going to be here, but where do the data centers go? Where are they extracting from? Right? Who pays the cost from that? Are the companies that are using the water paying, or the communities that are losing access, are they paying the price? Right? So the equity issue in that is of a concern,
Mhm.
and then the people. How are our the stratification of society that's happening? Who has knowledge? Who doesn't? Who has access to resource? Who don't? These are the things that we have. I think that have an imperative to really look at it. Not is the technology good or bad or not. The technology is neutral, just like any weapon or tech is useful. How it's used will determine if it's good or bad or not, right?
Mhm.
Um, how there's so many examples of that. The
Mhm.
guns are a big one, right? Guns don't kill people, people kill people, but the guns are the mechanism that's used,
Mhm.
for sure. But they can be used to defend or to attack. A knife can be used to cut plants to harvest, or it can be used to hurt
Mhm.
someone, right? But the intention, the consciousness,
Mhm.
what we bring into it makes a huge difference. And I think we're really at a critical point right now. I'm going to always come back to our consciousness, our need to critically think, our need to be human, to know what that means, and to make decisions and responses, not just reactions and have consumption. Right? We have to now more than ever really think about what we are doing and what is the impact on our environment, what is the impact on our community, what's the impact in our economy, and then use it. Not be, of course. I mean, I honestly I can tell you, I use it every day, and there's parts of me that are still um, fearful, concerning about what could happen. Absolutely, and just try to do my best to still understand how to take advantage of forums like this to help
Mhm.
people to one, see what it works for them, what doesn't work for them, and
Mhm.
then for us to have some community dialogue, some real dialogue about how it can work for us, especially for Black people, for Black men, for Black families, how
Mhm.
we can work with this technology and other technologies that'll come in. But we've even talked about robotics, or anything like that.
Mhm.
And I've seen, listen, in Arizona right now, in Phoenix, I know in some other cities, it's not even news anymore to see a robot car driving down the street. The Waymos, have y'all been out? Have y'all seen those yet?
Mhm.
The
I
Waymos, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. I've ridden in them. Just get in the car. There's no driver. You pull it up like a Uber app. Boom. Are you okay with the Waymo? Yep. Waymo, hit it, and a car just comes up. You hit the thing on your phone, hop in, and it gets you there. They're all over. Those are robots, right?
Mm.
Those are real live robots. They're on the highways in many American cities right now. When I was in Asia, I saw robot coffee shops. There's no person at all. They got a
right.
robot back there mixing lattes and doing
Mhm.
espressos. And in the airport, the cleaners, they're all robots. They're here. So when you start talking about putting the AI with the robotics, that's a whole nother thing, right? The AI in medical systems, they have the telemedicine where I could be a doctor sitting here and doing surgery on somebody in Thailand, over like we're using the Zoom right now, or this whatever mechanism this is, to be in three different places in one place at the same time. There's so many tech. There's so much advancement that the it's literally what was science fiction for us as kids. I think we're all more or less the same age. The stuff that was science fiction for us is here, and it's already so far past that
Mm.
already. And you're right, we talk about Diddy and them.
Yeah. You know,
Mhm.
I gotta ask this question.
Uh-huh.
In light of the fact that there's no driver, are you
Hmm.
supposed to leave a tip?
Uh, I don't know. That's a good question. I
I
haven't
mean,
seen it too. Yeah.
I'm thinking just like, you go to certain supermarkets or stores or whatever, and they got self checkout.
Yeah.
So if I'm checking out myself,
Right.
do I get a discount? You
Right.
didn't have to
No.
pay somebody to check me out. I check myself out, and you ain't paying the cash register or whatever is ringing the thing. Shouldn't we get a discount, bruh?
You would think so, right?
You
Right.
would
But
think.
here, look, here's the other side of that. And I know for a fact we've all experienced this. And this is to brother Lynn's question about programming. We've all gone somewhere and gotten food to take out, all right, or gotten or paid for something, and then they hand you the phone and they just ask for a tip, essentially. That
Right, right,
do you
right,
want to
right,
pay and get a tip, right? And you're
right,
getting takeout. You're not getting service, right? You're paying for whatever you're
right,
paying for,
right.
and then
Mhm.
walking out. But the reality of our programming, how we are programmable, if you ask someone to give a tip, whatever percentage, some percentage of them are going to just do it just because you presented the option to them and for nothing more. Like we're not even thinking about it, right?
Mhm.
Whatever psychological, I don't want to be seen as a bad person, I don't want to be seen as cheap, whatever process is going on,
Mhm.
the companies know that if you present people with the option, a certain number of percentage are going to give us free money.
Mhm.
It's really that simple. And we all
Mhm.
do, people do. And it's like those who don't tip, oh, it's something bad, it's something wrong with me for not tipping. No. You know what I'm saying? For not tipping,
Hey,
for not getting anything.
in some places you go, they already added the tip to the bill. They'll
Right.
put that 15 and 20%, and then they'll leave a line for a tip. I'm
Uh-huh.
Exactly.
like, well, wait a
Yeah,
minute now.
yeah.
Right.
You already took all my money. Now you want more money. You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
greed factor is real. Um,
Truly.
I think we have learned quite a bit today, Brother Michael, and I want to thank you for sharing your insight and your wisdom. I'm now at a point where I'm entertaining thoughts of paying for a Claude subscription.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are things that would be beneficial for me, and I'm noticing how the increase of the use of AI is really out there. I mean, you look at flyers that are generated for different events, they
Mm-hmm.
all have the same look.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, well, I wonder what that program is, whether it be Canva Pro or whatever, but they all look like they were all created by the same person,
Right.
but
Right.
I'm relatively certain that whoever got those, they have to pay because I use Canva,
Uh,
and the generic flyers, they don't compare to the ones that you have to pay for.
right.
So
Right.
I guess you get what you pay for, right?
You get what you pay for, and learning how to use it gets different results too, for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that's why, I'm going to encourage, I'm going to do a little quick plug. Reach out on the website or on the phone. Yeah, my focus is nonprofits, but I'm going to be starting some webinars or some form. I haven't quite decided yet, because just the quick things, customization, um, prompting, how to structure a prompt and how to customize a GP, or how to put custom instructions, not even create a custom GPT, but using customized instructions and learning how to structure prompts. Those two things, even on the free versions, can get you wildly more useful results immediately. It's not even like it takes weeks. It will give you different results immediately. And the more clear you can be about what you needed to do, you can
Mhm.
get better results immediately by learning how to structure prompts and learning how to create custom instructions for whatever platform you're using, be it Chat or Claude or Perplexity, whatever. But just those two things right there will make a world of difference for any user at any level. And then there's way more customizations that can go up. So yeah, I encourage you to check out my web or email, whatever, or you just search yourself. I mean, but those two things, learning how to structure prompts, learning how to create custom instructions, will make a tremendous difference at every level.
Well, I have quite a bit out there on the internet in terms of writing. So I
Hmm.
might do what you did, I'll be transparent with you though. I'm a little concerned about what it's gonna tell me about me, but I might just do that. Brother
Yeah.
Antonio, anything for the good of the cause before we close it?
Yeah, just basically, you know, I guess you kind of mentioned it before, is that that balance piece is going to be very essential and necessary of keeping us grounded and being human beings again, because that's the fear factor that I'm seeing down the road and scaling
Hmm.
down. And but like as Brother Michael brought up, we could definitely, like everything, you got a choice to use it for good or evil. That's
Yeah.
what the Creator always laid out for us. And so if we can use it for our benefits, but at the same time, we have to be mindful. And I think it needs to be more people, especially African Americans, because we've been used since we've been here. So
Hmm.
and that's where my spirit is geared towards, helping us. But
Hmm.
there has to be more of us, more understanding to what's going on this path. And
Yeah.
and what I'm calling it, we're gonna have to start developing more of these grounding centers,
Yeah.
to decompress, or what's the word I'm looking for, Vince? To when when you're from war, you come out and get decompressed to get rid of all this energy, these frequencies,
Yeah.
and whatever that is necessary to clean us up. You got to get
Uh,
reprogrammed or discharged from all the rest of this craziness in order to keep your human being status.
hmm.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
think it's probably what Brother Tim Goller was sharing with us with his book,
Hmm.
Liberated Mind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm,
And basically what he was saying was that you have to reconstruct your mind. You
mm-hmm,
got
Sure.
to unlearn some things so that you can build the
sure.
mind the way it's supposed to be
Mm-hmm,
built. So
mm-hmm.
absolutely great stuff. So thank you for sharing today, Michael. And if there's anything that you want me to add to the description of this video, just let me know and I'll drop it in the description.
Yeah.
Also, I'm going to switch out your photograph.
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
when you put the thumbnail photo in StreamYard,
Uh-huh.
sometimes you can't use the whole picture. It'll
Uh,
just you have a short range,
Mm-hmm.
so
right.
when I use those photos, I try to get at least the eyes to the mouth in there. you
Right.
know?
Right.
So we'll
Okay.
switch that out. But I'm
Yeah.
really glad we had a chance to have this conversation today, and I think we should talk more about this. There
Hmm.
were some rabbit holes that we didn't go down today.
Yeah.
We only have so much time, but I welcome you to return, and we can have further conversations about AI and even I want to say even as important, or perhaps even more important, your relationship to food,
Man.
because the fact that you
Yeah.
can grow food is huge.
Yeah.
And, with what they're talking about doing with food, or what they may already be doing, I mean, you talking about putting
Yeah.
mRNA in lettuce. Come on,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
You talking about using food to program me? You
Right.
know,
Right.
it's like, okay, well, but let me just grow my own lettuce. I don't need
Yes.
mRNA in my lettuce.
Right.
One
Right.
other thing, I'll say this before we close it down.
Mm.
I was talking to you about Stacy, and there's this other guy who uses AI in a similar way,
Mm-hmm.
and the AI calls him Enlightened One.
Mm.
He looks
Mm-hmm.
like an African brother, but he be
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
asking,
yeah, I've seen
he,
that. Yeah.
yeah, Enlightened One, and it'll
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
give him the straight up, honest to goodness, no
Mm-hmm.
filter, no fluff answers.
You know,
you
Right.
know. And so a question was asked about what happened 6 years ago. And the AI response was that it was a hoax.
Mm.
And the
mm,
AI response was that the solution to the problem caused more problems than what was said to have been causing the problems.
mm,
Mm-hmm.
mm, mm,
Now, this is based on, scouring the internet for information and all
Right.
these sources,
mhm,
some of
mhm,
which are credible sources.
mhm,
So the word is out. And if for no other reason than getting the truth about that,
Mm-hmm.
it's already proven that it is something that's necessary, because if this is what it takes for us to get to the truth, because we need to know the truth, you
Yeah.
know, they're not telling us the truth. You know, somebody said that they pleaded the fifth over 100 times. If you know who I'm talking about, I ain't gonna say nobody's names,
Right.
but somebody who was in a high position of
Oh, I know. I
influence
got
and
you.
authority
Mm-hmm.
pled the fifth over
Mm-hmm.
100 times. That's
Mm.
an indication that we weren't told the truth, because there was
No doubt.
something to be
There's no
hidden.
doubt. Yeah,
So
no
Yeah.
doubt.
anything that can unlock the doors to us obtaining the truth has proven its worth,
And
good or bad.
see,
Yeah.
and that's why my conspiracy mindset is growing. So if they have, if they think that's what I'm trying to get black folks to understand. If they think like that, just don't keep it right there. Take it across the board with everything that they got their hands on. So if
Right.
they know they got you paying attention to this screen, to this phone, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't you think they could use this to their advantage to do whatever else devious deed that they want to do?
Right.
They
Whatever.
they do,
Yeah,
and they are. But
yeah.
you know, it was Fela Sawandi at Kent State University back in the 70s. And one of the things that he said in his instructions to us as students, he said, question everything.
Sure.
Everything, you know, and that's what we have to do in order to be critical and analytical thinkers. We have to question everything, you know, because there's a lot to be questioned.
I
My
agree.
brother, once again, thank you so much.
Thank
And
you, sir.
trust and believe we're gonna have a conversation about coming down south.
Listen, man, I'm glad. I'm gonna say 15 seconds, grow something. Like you mentioned that food. I was thinking about wrapping up, and I'm glad you said I was gonna hold it. But
Mhm.
yes, plant a seed, grow something, get a pot, put it in your backyard, ground. See that process. One tomato, one pepper plant, whatever. It's very important. We can talk more about that anytime, but it's very important. We should be growing something.
At the very least, grow some broccoli sprouts.
Something. Yes.
Yes.
Yep. It's
All
good for the
right.
mind, body, and soul.
Yes.
All right. Well, it's thundering. I hope they're
Yeah.
not getting rained on over there at the cultural celebration, but I will make my way over there, and perhaps there will be something indoors that I can take advantage of. Thanks for joining us, brother.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you both. Yep.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you,
As
brother.
always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make today your absolute best day. Peace, everyone.
Peace,
Peace.
peace, peace.